So today we are talking about the Sony A6700 and why I think this is the best camera on the market right now. But before we get into talking about this camera, I kind of want to take a step back and just reflect on all the cameras that have kind of led us to the Sony A6700. You know, I remember when Casey Neistat kind of changed the world of content creation and definitely changed the world of camera consumer consumption. And I hate saying that because I feel like it makes me old. I'm 27, 21 at heart. But I remember back in 2014, 2015, when Casey Neistat really came on and started changing the world because he started vlogging on a Canon 70D, a DSLR. And before then, DSLRs were just cameras that took photos and just had a little bit of video recording capabilities. And the reason why DSLRs kind of blew up is because it allowed you to change the shutter speed, the ISO, the f-stop, where the consumer cameras at the time were just these point and shoot cameras and you couldn't really do much on them. I remember my first video camera was like, it was like a square and a USB stick came out of it, and I recorded my TV screen of me playing Black Ops because I wanted to be in a sniping clan, and I thought whenever I was doing that, I was the shit, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Cameras can't get better than this. And boy, I was wrong. And I'm gonna straight up say it, I think Casey Neistat changed the consumer camera for the better, because as soon as Casey started vlogging on the 70D, everyone started picking up DSLRs and started recording video. And now today we have some of the best cameras on the market because of that. And we also have really good consumer grade cameras too. Like, I remember everyone had to have the Canon G7X. Like when FaZe, if you guys are watching me, you probably know who FaZe is. When FaZe moved to LA, everyone just had Canon G7Xs going around vlogging, creating content. Heck, that camera even has the craziest resale value to this day. Like when that camera came out, it was like 500 bucks. Try finding one less than $1,200. It's almost as bad as the Fuji X100VI or the X100V. I forget which one they're on now, but you get my point. And fast forward to now, the late end of 2024, and there is so many cameras on the market, and I feel like so many people are saying to buy this camera because it has that spec, or you need this camera to be a real photographer, a real videographer. And to be honest, you don't really need a fancy camera. You need a great story, and you need motivation, and you need consistency to grow online. The camera's just a tool that gets you there. But with all of that being said, I feel like I have found the most perfect camera on the market right now. As I've said, the Sony A6700. So for all the spec people out there, let me just read off some specs for this camera. I have them written down. The Sony A6700 is a 26 megapixel camera, so awesome for video, awesome for stills. It is a 4K sensor cropped down from a 6K sensor. So the video capabilities from this is extra crispy. It records in 4K, obviously, but it records 4K 60 and 4K 120. It has 10-bit recording, so you can make the video extra crispy, and 10-bit is literally a game changer. If you're still on a 8-bit camera, it's worth it to change, I'm telling you. And the best part is that it's small, and I love how small this camera is. And the reason why this camera is so small is because it's a crop sensor camera. And I feel like online currently right now, every photographer, every videographer is going to tell you that you need a full frame camera. And I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, you don't. So this is not my first Sony camera. I had the Sony A7C. the first version, not the A7C II. That camera was a small full frame camera. I paired that with the Sigma 24-70, and that was my baby. I loved that camera so much. I picked it up and I just felt confident with it. That camera brought me to comedy clubs. I went all around the city capturing it. I recorded so many videos. That camera made me $6,000 from a brand deal. I loved that camera. But what ended up happening was it just became stale to me. It didn't have the 10-bit. I wanted to record more. I was messing around with S-Log. I just wasn't getting the look that I thought that I wanted. So I sold that camera, sold the 24-70, and I got the Sony ZV-E1 because I fell down the trap of wanting a camera like the FX3, but it wasn't the FX3. Sony ZV-E1 is pretty much the same as that camera, but it's more consumer grade. It has some consumer tech in it that doesn't make it as professional as the FX3. I get that camera, and with that camera, I was able to also afford my dream lens, the Sony 16-35 f2.8. I actually just sold that today, fun fact. And that was the dream setup. Full frame, 4K, 120, 4K, 60, and I thought that that was like my dream camera. And what ended up happening is I just got in my head every single time I wanted to use it because it costed me like $7,000. And it was just so expensive that I felt like if I tried to take any sort of questionable shots or if I wanted to mount my camera, I was just too scared because I didn't want to break it. So I just started not to record a lot with it, and I just stopped kind of using the camera because I was uninspired and also just didn't want to break the camera. So I sold that camera and picked up the A6700 because this camera does everything that the Sony A7C does, but with 10-bit recording. Now you're probably wondering, Chris, why didn't you just get the A7C II? It has the full frame, it has like a 26, maybe a 28, 30 megapixel camera, and I'll tell you why I decided to go with this crop sensor. One, this camera is $1,300, and I have it paired with the Sony 23mm f1.2. This is a 35mm equivalent lens, and this lens is $300. If I were to get a 35 f1.2 full frame, I'm spending easily $1,200–$1,300. Now I'm back to that really expensive setup. I love this setup because it's small, compact, packs a punch, has all the features that I want. This is $1,600. If this thing breaks, I can replace it. If I crack this lens, I can replace it. I find it so much more enjoyable to shoot on this camera because I'm willing to take it places that I wouldn't take my other cameras. This camera is fantastic. And I'm also selling this lens, or I'm returning it, for the 16mm f1.2 from Sony, which is pretty much the 24mm equivalent because I think I'm gonna like that more. The 35 is just a little bit too tight. 24 I think is gonna be spot on. If you made it this far in the video, the crazy thing about all this is it doesn't matter about the camera. Like I said before, it matters about you and your story that you're trying to tell. And just to prove my point, I recorded this whole video on my iPhone 16 Pro in log. I bet you guys couldn't even tell the difference until I said something. So, if you're on the market for a new camera, I could not recommend more the Sony A6700. And if you want a more video focused camera, get the FX30 because it's the same specs as what's inside of here, but it's tailored more to professional video recording. So that is my 2 cents on cameras. You don't need the craziest camera, you just need the right camera. So that is the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had fun making it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. As I'm recording this video, I have 982 subscribers. I am so close to 1,000 subscribers. So If I'm not at 1,000 subscribers and you're seeing this, please subscribe. And if I am at 1,000 subscribers, woo! But also, please subscribe.